Hey, thank you for joining Chats of the Twisted. I'm Celinda.
I'm Deva.
I'm Rory.
And thanks for watching again. We kind of wanted to go over our trip. We went to Yorktown, Texas last weekend, was it?
I think so, yeah. About last weekend, we visited Yorktown Memorial Hospital.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing. We did actually load a video on TikTok and YouTube just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what we went through. But today we're going to talk about the details of our investigation. So when we first got there, we were met by a tour guide. And you guys remember his name?
No.
His name was Eddie.
Yeah, so Eddie kind of gave us the rundown on how, it was first built and kind of told us about, all the other investigations that had taken place there and things that happened and occurred in there. And so he started off, probably talking to us for like 15, 20 minutes. And then he just threw us in there and locked the door and left us alone.
Eddie actually gives a lot of the information. When you Google Yorktown Memorial Hospital, there's not a lot of information on there. So with Eddie, he was explaining to us there's an estimated 2,000 people that had passed away at the hospital. He says that he's not one that really believes in ghosts, but that he has seen and he has heard some things. And he also mentioned that his wife was the previous tour guide, but that one day when she had gone in there, something happened, and when she came out, she was beat up, she was bruised, and she did not want to talk about it. She told her husband, she was like, I'm not going in there. I don't want to do guides anymore. You can do it, kind of deal.
Yeah, she was really afraid to go back. She never went back. He also mentioned that she was pushed by something in there, and she also came home with a black eye one day.
Yep.
What year was it built? Do you remember?
1951.
So from 1951 to 1980, 1990, they were in operation. Is that correct?
I believe, was it 1995?
When they
Shut it down?
it was in the early 90s.
Yeah, in the early 90s. And he said it was because they opened up a new hospital at a little town nearby named Cuero. So they quit taking patients. And what they did after that is they opened it up as a rehab. Is what I understood.
In the 80s, yeah. That's when they turned it into a rehab.
Oh, so it was in the 80s that they stopped taking the patients. That's when the hospital opened up in Cuero, and then they started.
When it closed completely, it was in the 90s.
Oh, I see. But they later made it a rehab for patients that were having issues with drugs,
Mental issues, just all sorts of things.
right? Yeah. So I don't know. So anyway, so there's a lot of history behind that, and there's a lot of things that have been said and told about the place. There was mention of a priest, because there is a chapel in there, and there was mention of a priest that had actually impregnated one of the nuns, because it was run by nuns, the place.
I think he did it multiple times. I think I heard that he did it to
Multiple nuns.
patients as well, maybe.
Because
it was ran. I mean, the reason there's a chapel is because the Felician sisters, the nuns, are the ones who started the whole thing, the whole mental hospital.
Yeah, and it's been mentioned, and I've also seen in other investigative channels that he got these patients and nuns pregnant, and that he made them have abortions on their own, like they performed their own abortions in front of him, which is pretty sick if you ask me.
That's really scary. I remember when we were walking around the hospital, we actually found a couple rooms that had the beds where you would lay down give birth and put your feet up and all that. And it was kind of scary.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. Also, he the care or the groundskeeper also mentioned that he had heard recently that there was a caretaker that lived at the hospital, that he later went missing because there was a lot of fraud and things going on there as well as other sick things that we'll talk about later. But there was fraud. I don't know the whole story behind all the fraud or the forgery or whatever took place financially, but he mentioned that there was a caregiver that lived on the grounds at the very top of the hospital, the highest level, and that he went missing. Apparently, he got wind of what was going on in the hospital as far as the fraud, and that it is said that they killed him, and that they also threw him in the incinerator that's located in the boiler room, as they did with those babies that they aborted.
That's scary. That's crazy. When we were walking around, we were actually able to see one of the incinerators. I don't know how many there were in the hospital. It's a very small hospital, but you could see where they had the door, and they actually had some like ashes and what have you inside of there.
Yeah, it was very creepy. There's a also, if you watch that quick video that we made about it, there's a hearse there in the back. It's a pink hearse. I don't know. I've been there before, and let me tell you that the first time that I went, it was darker. It was more, I felt more of a presence than I did this last time I went. The first time, I don't know. I mean, it was like very heavy, and there was like a presence. You could feel like as if someone was watching you the whole time. It was way more creepier to me the first time I went. How did y'all guys think about it this time? Did y'all think it was pretty creepy?
I didn't. To be honest, firsthand, I didn't have any experiences where I thought I saw any apparitions or I didn't see anything. There was a brief moment where we heard some knocking and we thought we could hear like somebody had saying something. But when I was in the chapel, I do remember there was moments where I felt like it would get cold all of a sudden, and it's really stuffy inside the hospital. I mean, there are a few windows that are broken, but not enough to give you a constant breeze. And I was standing next to Rory and Sal and the tour guide, and I was the only one that would feel it. But I remember you guys were saying that when we were walking throughout the hospital, you guys also had moments where you would feel like a breeze.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, definitely a temperature drop. Also, I did kind of, when I walked into the chapel, on the left side, if you're facing the cross, on the left side is is where the priest would get dressed before they would have mass, I guess. And on the right side, there's the place where the nuns would get dressed, the nuns' dressing room. Well, I remember when I walked in there, I smelled like this, like it kind of smelled like gas and sulfur at the same time, and then it just went away. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was weird.
There was a very strong smell of just something.
I smelled gas a lot. There was a few times I smelled like gas.
Yeah, and I mean, it hasn't been functioning. That hospital hasn't had electricity or any kind of air or any kind of power in, oh my God, since the 90s, the early 90s when they closed it down.
A lot of things haven't even been touched, like wheelchairs, equipment, it's all still there. And there's a lot of mold too. Like we felt, like me and my mom, we felt very heavy, kind of like a body feeling, like lethargic almost. I don't know if that was just because of the mold, but yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, there was this certain spot that I just really got the creeps. I don't know what it was, and then I started to get like a really bad headache. But it went away once I walked out of there. But it was like a weird, it did kind of give me a weird feeling. But yeah, I mean, it was, the mold was really bad.
Yeah.
You could really
It
smell
was really bad. There was like when you go downstairs, there was a wall that was already kind of caving in.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because a lot of the rooms are blocked off, but some of the rooms aren't. So you're able to walk in there completely and see and kind of feel the energy in the room.
Yeah, I noticed that this second time around, the nursery. Okay, let me go back. The first time I went, the nursery was not closed in like it was this time, because there was two parts to the nursery. Of course, where the crib was, and then the other side where they had a bunch of toys, and there was like a couch and books. Well, that used to be open, and I noticed that it was gated off. I don't know why. Oh, and speaking of gated off, that um, cage down there. What was that all about?
There's a whole cage with a bed and a sink in the hospital, like a metal cage
In the basement. Yeah. I mean, why would they have that in a hospital? I mean, even with the rehab still, like,
Maybe
That-
when they act up, the patients are acting up.
but it's not a jail like where they can, you know.
Maybe as punishment.
Wow. Yeah.
that would have been like a really like a terrifying punishment.
Yeah.
That was a scary looking cage. And back to your point when you said that the nursery wasn't closed off, when we were walking through, I actually was able to find a door, and when I opened it, it was the second part of the nursery. So when I walked in, the door was kind of hard to open, I'll be honest. When you first walked in, there's a little sink, and there's that little table that they usually put the newborn babies in, and then there was a little window that looked out into the nursery part, but had all the toys. Well, I did open the door to the nursery part. I didn't want to mess with any of the toys or move anything, but right in front of the crib, there was a cross, and it said R.I.P. and then it said always loved.
Wow.
Right there. So I didn't want to disturb any of the toys. I got closer.
And then the groundskeeper, he mentioned a little girl that passed away there.
Stacy.
Yeah. So
Stacy.
what's the story about her?
So her mom worked there, and due to her having to take care of her, Stacy, her mom taking care of her, she would have to miss work a lot. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember how the story.
They allowed her to bring her there, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
And
no.
she would
Yeah.
stay-
She started bringing her. Like they were like, so then take her with you, so you don't have to keep missing. And a male doctor, I believe, or nurse, took a weird liking to her. He would bring her toys and books and things like that. And then one day she died in the hospital, and apparently nobody knows how or why. I think it might have been the nurse, because it's kind of weird.
Or the doctor. No, let me see if I can look up his name real quick.
And they were saying that she had passed away within the confines of the nurse's facility. Like there's like a little tiny square where it was like the nurse's office. There's a word for it, but I'm forgetting the word.
Yeah,
the
no one.
nurse's station, so to say. But that's where she had passed, in that square.
Yeah, and like nobody even ever knew how she died.
There's a lot of deaths in that hospital where people just don't know. There's no record. So we're not really sure how many people have passed away in that hospital.
Yeah, like Dee said, it was, the groundskeeper mentioned 2,000 people. I mean, that's a lot of people.
From 50 to 96, yeah. From 1950 to 96.
Yeah.
That's not that long.
No. But yeah, so I mean, it was I enjoyed it. I'd like to go at night.
Yeah, we have to go back at night for
I want
sure.
to stay overnight. I want to stay past the witch's hour.
And the gentleman that was our tour guide that was telling us when people would stay overnight, that's when they would hear the most stuff. He mentioned that there was an Air Force man who had gone and stayed with his service dog. Now the tour guide wasn't used to people bringing their dogs in, but this guy was saying, he's like, yeah, I've been all over. I take my dog with me. You know, like we're used to it. So the tour guide was like, okay, you know what? Go ahead. Like just be careful with the animal. The airman said that while he was walking past the chapel and the nurse's station, that his dog got attacked, and that it looked like somebody had tackled his dog, and that had never happened before. His dog never freaked out like that. So when that happened, he called the tour guide and he's like, we have to go. From what the tour guide said, that gentleman left all of his stuff. He left his jacket, he left his equipment, everything. He just got his dog and left.
Yeah, it was his military service jacket, because I don't remember if he said he was in the army or what, but he did not want to go back in there. So yeah, so I'm looking here and you know, just to get a quick idea. So from 1986 to 1988 was when it became the rehab, and then yeah, so the numbers do say around so the doctor's name was Dr. Leon Norwerski, Norwierski. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So that's the guy that was really nice to Stacy. He's the one that would bring her books and things. So it is said that he's been seen, because he's buried there in Yorktown. There's a graveyard close by, and people have said that they've seen him at night, like walking towards the hospital and going in through the back. They've even seen him like through the glass, like just the shadow of him grabbing like his clipboard, yeah, and just like writing things. And I mean, that's creepy. But they say they see people walking in and out of that place at night.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. It says right here, one of the well-known and less frightening spirits of this little girl, Stacy, is rumored to be one of the most interactive ghosts of the hospital. In life, her favorite book was The Pokey Little Puppy, and we saw that book there.
Mm-hmm.
So they say that in the afterlife that Stacy frequently that she's been spotted in several specific areas of the hospital, and that sometimes in her old room on the first floor, and other times she can be heard playing in the basement, you know. And people say that they've read her books, and that she'll like answer, like, or they'll ask her if they want her to read, if they want them to read her a book, and she's like answers that she loves books. And so people read her books. Also, there's a ball that they've thrown to her, and that apparently it's rolled back. But yeah, it's crazy. Also, the nuns. Remember what they had said about the nuns, that they don't like people that have tattoos. People have been scratched, bitten, pushed, apparently, by these nuns. And I can tell you that when I went the first time, I did go with some other friends, and one of my friends, she had a lot of tattoos. She all of a sudden starts screaming and crying, and she starts running out the building, and she's screaming that someone had pulled her hair. So we had to kind of cut our tour short, because she did not want to be there anymore. She wanted to get out of there. So I'm kind of a witness to that, because my friend did experience that, or at least she says she did. There was a ritual that took place there, and it was with animals, though.
No, it was animal sacrifices, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a raccoon found gutted, dogs.
The tour guide said he found an animal, and he was like, I don't even know what this is. It was so just
Right.
destroyed.
Yeah, it was like torn to pieces. Like they couldn't figure out if it was a dog or what it was. It was badly mutilated. Also, they one of the main stories about that place is the murder that took place in the boiler room, and it was two staff members. It was a male and a female that worked there. The female was married. Well, she started to have an affair with this other staff member, a male, and her husband found out about it. And he went, one day he went, but it's not known if it was a gun or a knife, or it could have been both. But he showed up, he found them both in the boiler room, and they were having sex, and he killed them both.
And there's blood on the walls to this day, still from that attack.
Yeah, so that kind of tells me that some people say it was a stabbing because of the way because of the way the knife was. I mean the blood spatter.
Yeah, he said it was all over the walls, up to the ceiling. There was a lot.
Wasn't there a TJ or something, like somebody that he talked about?
He was in the rehab era of it. I think he and some friends were shooting up, I think, and I guess he like passed out, like he became immobilized, he couldn't move.
Overdosed.
And his friends didn't realize it, and they wanted to go, I don't know, do more drugs or something. So they left him in his room, and I forget what it was, but there was some sort of bell or something to alert someone to go and check on him, but nobody ever came.
Oh yeah, that was the emergency room back door.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a buzzer, he said, or something like that.
And yeah, nobody ever came, and they just found him dead the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad.
Right. Well, as I'm looking through here, I'm also hearing of a man named Doug Richards that is supposedly hasn't crossed over, that is still roaming the hallways of the Yorktown Memorial Hospital. And he was about 70, or no, actually it was around in 1973. He somehow died there, and they say he still roams the halls. And the people see him, that he's like tall, and they always see him like in jeans and a shirt. He's one of them that apparently roams through there. There's also this man there's also one that I heard of through another investigative show that mentions the Gray Man. And apparently he's always seen like at the door of the chapel. It's just like a figure that they always see there. It's like a gray figure, so that's why he's known as the Gray Man. Also, there has been a lot of investigators that have been there that have mentioned that they have caught a lot on camera, that they've heard screaming from the delivery room, that they've seen a lot of apparitions, that they've heard really clear voices. But as for us, we really just experienced those few things, which was a temperature drop. We did hear the banging in one spot. We heard, there was nobody else in there. If you watch the video, you can hear it. Also, what else? The nuns, we didn't see, just the stench that we also experienced. But we do plan on going back and spending the night. Hopefully will last. I don't know. There was a gentleman outside of the building that was selling little knickknacks. They're also ghost investigators, and he did mention that he has stayed there overnight. Him and his wife and kids. He says that he has a son that's a pretty big guy, bigger than him. He says it takes a lot to push this guy, is what he said. And he's got pushed by something in there, and it nearly knocked him down. So I don't know if I want to say we were lucky not to have experienced those things, but we did kind of want to catch something, see something, hear something. So we are planning on going back.
Yes, for sure. I definitely want to just experience something in the hospital. So we're gonna go back sometime at night. We don't really have a date for that yet set, but we are working on that.
Yeah, and we're gonna do a lot of recording. We're gonna take some equipment and give you all a better idea, and maybe even go live if possible.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions on things we should take, please let us know. We're not taking any Ouija boards. We're not taking anything that is going to be disrespectful. But if you have anything in mind that you would like to see that you would think is cool, drop a comment and let us know.
Absolutely. And also, we will be mentioning people that are missing on our podcasts. If there's anyone that you know that has gone missing and you'd like for us to mention it or talk about them, please let us know. Send us an email at chatsofthetwisted@gmail.com. And also, if there's any stories you'd like us to cover, just get a hold of us through our email address. And I guess this concludes our very first episode. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more stories. And have a great rest of your day. Bye.
A twisted day. Bye.
Bye.